Welcome back everyone to another Company of Heroes 2 replay cast. This time it's a little different though. As you can see, it is Wikinger. I just wanted to try out something and see if Wikinger's casts would be good. Anyway, we have the players. Actually, I am using the old Observer HUD because if we toggle it, Wikinger, as you may know, does not use regular doctrines, but it uses a different system, so it's a little bit different. The replay software doesn't really understand that. Anyway, we have Delta Catalan playing as the OKW, Vaxi as the Wehrmacht, and Ragnar the Gamer as the OKW, sorry. Then we have Brits down here, Tukcheske Brambori, probably mispronounced, something like that. Anyway, Czech names, Ordo, and Def Kitty. The map is, of course, as you can see, Regev Winter. So we're going to have a bit of a Regev meat grinder. And this is probably going to be a really long game, so let's speed it up a little bit. Anyway, my game knowledge on Wikinger is not quite as strong, or as weak, I guess you could say, as it is on regular Company of Heroes. So I will try to explain as much as possible without really... not really going too much into detail because I don't know the detail. Anyway, so we have, of course, the SS Grenadiers coming through. Those are the standard infantry for the OKW, and we're gonna have the first engagements. This is probably going to be a pretty long game. Anyway, we have these infantry engineers for the Americans going into prone and trying to get some shots in on those SS units. Not really having a good time of it, of course, being pushed away. And the British sappers on the left side, they're probably going to win with a 2v1 against these SS Freiwilligen Infanterie. But a nice grenade. Grenades are dangerous as hell in Wikinger. A nice grenade will push away these sappers, but the second sapper squad likely will be enough to defeat that infantry squad over here. It looks like Ragnar is trying to take the entirety of the center and the left-hand side by himself, whereas his allies are going for the right. We have a bit of a defensive position from Def Kitty. And in the middle, we have riflemen and engineers trying to face off against those grenadiers. Of course, 2v1 are they're gonna win, I would say. And yeah, so of course the way teching works is also different. You'll see. We have, looks like the SS Panzer Division has been picked by Ragnar the Gamer, so he's gonna have a lot more heavy tanks available later on. And they also, the doctrines that you pick also change units that you have available in the early phases of the game, although not at the tier 0. Tier 0 has pretty much the same for everyone. I wonder what that truck will do soon enough. So we have tier 1, of course, from Vaxi. What has he picked? We have Tank Hunter Doctrine, so maybe a few elephants. He's, of course, going to have the Panzerjäger troop, which can do quite a strong amount of damage against enemy vehicles, because the Panzerfausts are very, very dangerous. He's got a lot of Volksgrenadiers, Vaxi that is, and an MG. So once the MGs start to roll out, they cost munitions. So you're going to need to be careful about how you use your munitions with grenades and such if you're going to want machine guns. But yeah, unfortunately I cannot show you how the doctrines look, but they look a lot like they do in the Company of Heroes 1 UI. So it's actually a tree that you pick using your points, your command points. They're a resource, and you spend them like a bit like skill points on different abilities. Anyway, as you can see, Ragnar is already starting to upgrade his SS Grenadiers with LMG 42s. These infantry units are relatively expensive, but they're also very strong, especially long range. So if you can get them vetted up, they're going to have a very, very big advantage over some of the equivalents for the Americans and the British. But the British and the Americans have some advantages over their own. As you can see, Ordo is bringing out that pack howitzer. We have the Lukes already on the field for Delta, and that's going to be relatively effective. However, Lukes is not as strong as you may think it is. Wikinger, of course, increases the lethality of basically everything around, but the Lukes isn't that much more dangerous than it is in the standard game, and it's especially a lot more vulnerable to things like anti-tank guns and anti-tank grenades. So you need to be careful with this thing, especially need to be careful if something like this 50 caliber machine gun is going to be coming around, because it does have those armor-piercing rounds, and the bazookas coming in are also going to be dangerous. So it looks like we have Ordo picking Airborne. and the other American player picking armor. Armor is basically my favorite, and as you can see, there goes the Lukes to just the fire of that 50 caliber machine gun. Looks like a bit of support coming in from the pack howitzer, which is already up to 11 kills, but just in terms of infantry. So it looks like the pack howitzer got a massive hit on these SS Grenadiers, and right now Ragnar is down to 2 squads, and they're all very heavily damaged. And as you can see, the might of the pack howitzer is being shown yet again. So you need to be careful about these little artillery units, and Wikinger artillery is dangerous as hell, even more than in the standard game. In fact, it's one of the things I like the least about Wikinger, is how strong artillery are. Mortars are also relatively strong, but it looks like Vaxi on the right side is really not facing a lot of opposition. He's even pushing his Volksgrenadiers all the way up to the American and British base, so not really having a good time of that. And right now it looks like Ordo will be saving up for some of that airborne. Honestly, when you go for airborne, I like to not really get a lot of riflemen, because airborne squads are expensive, very expensive. And as you can see, he's gonna go for the old croc. This is an extremely strong unit. It's a command unit. There are a few command units for basically every faction. And for example, the Germans have the Obersturmführer, and the Wehrmacht have, well, the Wehrmacht are also Germans, but they have the Major. They have different abilities. They provide different bonuses. Ooh, Panzer IV. They provide different bonuses and all of that. But I think that this McAuliffe, the Brigadier General over here for the American Airborne, is probably the strongest of them all. He's one of the most expensive, but he's got lots of abilities to call in mortar barrages and all of that. He has very strong firepower, with his squad comprising almost entirely of Thompsons. So they do a lot of damage, and surprisingly, they're even very strong in the mid to long ranges. And he has some very strong veterancy. And he's also got some nasty abilities like On Me and the Marksman, which basically is just a sniper ability. Ooh, looks like we have a we have a Wasp carrier coming in, and the Wasp carrier easily smashing that machine gun. Flames are very strong, and as you can see, they damage vehicles. We have the engine burning effect that's going to slow down the vehicle. So right now, this is pretty dangerous, but a Panzerjäger troop will be built by Ragnar the Gamer, and that takes care of the Wasp carrier easily enough. But as you can see, the Wasp carrier's flames are doing a massive amount of damage to the battle headquarters. So be very afraid of flamethrowers and that, that kind of vehicle. Looks like we have the Cavalry Command Recon Squadron. So that's, of course, M8 and 2 Stuarts for like 650 manpower. 800 is the later call-in. Looks like the Americans are going for the call-ins, but, well, they're facing a Panzer IV Aus F1, which is, of course, the one with the stubby gun. I would say that the Stuarts can easily take this thing, but, oh yeah, right, I mean, it does have the heat rounds, but still, kind of strange that the American player over here, Defketty, did not push in aggressively against this Panzer IV. I think he would have been able to do that. And Vaxi's floating a lot of manpower. Of course, the problem with having this HUD is that I don't have the manpower and fuel numbers unless I click on somebody. So, for example, if I clicked on Delta right now, yeah, as you can see, he's also floating a lot, and he's down to no squads. So he really should be thinking about getting some stuff. He has Tier 3 set up, and has he picked anything? Yeah, right, he picked Panzer Division just like Ragnar. So we are going to have 2 Panzer Divisions, and he can go with the map hacks, he can go with the Lukes. But at this point, I would go with a mortar half-track if I was him, and then wait on the Schwer Panzer headquarters, which is less expensive to set up, but easier to kill because of the increased damage of everything than the standard game. Looks like he's going to have his SS infantry moving up. Strange that no one went for the Iron Will Division, which is the newest doctrine that has been released. And of course, with the Panzer Division, you have those 502nd SS Jäger Battalion, which are a bit like the Wikinger equivalent of Obersoldaten. They have the infrared STGs. They're very powerful. I'm not sure if they have the... Oh, there goes the Panzer IV. As I was saying, everything is lethal as hell in Wikinger. So it looks like... What was the Panzer IV killed by? Maybe the pack howitzer? No, it doesn't look like the pack howitzer got the kill. But I'm just trying to see what else could have gotten that kill. Yeah, I think it was the... It must have been the pack howitzer, because something blew this thing up really hard, and oh, maybe it was these riflemen. They don't have a vehicle kill, but they might have helped out with the bazookas, of course. And as you can see, the airborne are shaping up quite differently from all the other players. You have the armor company. This is one of the reasons why I really like Wikinger. The doctrines feel really different from each other. Like, you can see the armor company player, he's got an anti-tank squad and then a lot of vehicles coming in. But the airborne player has a lot of light squads. He's got the command unit over here. He's got a lot of support weapons of different kinds. Whereas the Brits, it seems like they're playing a little bit more defensively on the left, and he has gone for the Royal Engineers. I don't really know how the Brits play all that well because I haven't played them a lot in Wikinger, but it looks like he's well, he's got the Wasp and the AEC available, but looks like one of the Wasps was, oh yeah, he's going with a lot of Wasps, it seems. I'm thinking that, yeah, all of these are Wasps, and one of these seems to have been abandoned, so that's relatively bad. If the Germans can steal it, that could be a good bit of equipment that can destroy this left-hand side quite easily. And this Panzerjäger squad is something I really hate because they have some really nasty stealth abilities. And ooh, looks like we have a lot of damage coming in, but Ragnar is going to be forced away. He's still basically 1v2, which is a little bit of a problem. And looks like an ambush from this Pack 40. Well done taking out one of the Stuarts, but the rest of the American vehicles are still around. They're still providing fire support. There's a Stug G late version right now. That's very, very dangerous against the Stugs, not the Stugs, the light vehicles. But these riflemen with the anti-tank grenades, they can probably take care of it. Massive damage from one of those anti-tank grenades, and the second one will connect and destroy it. The anti-tank grenades actually aren't Homan, I believe. If I recall correctly, they're not Homan, so you need to aim them quite well. And looks like the riflemen will try to push up, but a couple of enemy squads will prevent them from stealing these anti-tank guns, which is actually very, very good for our German players. They don't want those Pack 40s falling into the hands of the enemy, especially for the mental sanity of our two OKW players over here, or I guess Waffen-SS players. And yeah, as you can see, the Jaeger Battalion gonna come in. They have the Panzerfaust 100, which has a very, very nasty range. You'll see. I think that about at this range, we'll be able to fire the Panzerfaust at the Wasp carrier, but the Wasp carrier nicely maneuvering out of the way, and looks like, yeah, General McAuliffe just laying the heat down on those Panzerjägers, and actually not just Jaegers, laying the heat down on those elite Jaegers, and those Jaegers cost like 600 manpower, so losing even one model of these guys is pretty prohibitively expensive to reinforce. You'll see. You can see 49 manpower to just reinforce one model. So losing 4 guys, or 3 guys like that, is almost 150 manpower. It's basically like losing an engineer squad, although not for the Americans, it seems. Seems I was wrong on that estimate. And of course, the OKWs don't have engineers, so time to look into the Wehrmacht. Yeah, the Pioneer Troop, we have 210 manpower. I wonder what that... Oh, that's the vehicle crew of the Stug. That's something that in Wikinger always happens is... well, the vehicle crews are there for every faction, and if you're gonna lose your vehicle, some of the vehicle crew survives. And it looks like we have a glider coming in, taking some anti-aircraft fire, it seems, on the approach, and almost being completely destroyed, but it's gonna survive, and... That's pretty funny. Anyway, it's gonna survive and unfortunately disabled. Why? Seems like it got damaged too heavily, and that's sad because this thing acts as an HQ, so that's pretty bad. Anyway, we have a bit of a push attempt from Vaxi, but it's gonna get pushed back, and he's got a repair station over here for his Stugs, and yeah, it looks like his Stug free support is still recovering from that Panzerjäger doctrine that he has, and oh, he's also gone for battle phase 3, so he's got tier 4, and of course with the Panzerjägers, he's got the Jagdpanzer, and the Jagdtiger as well. Actually, I thought that was the elephant. No, it looks like there's the Jagdtiger for the Wehrmacht. Anyway, we have Wasp carrier trying to move in, but there's a Panzer IV Aus H, which is pretty much the end-all be-all of Panzer IVs, and Delta Captain, or Catalan, is going to have an easy time, I think, destroying the Wasp carrier, but he needs to be careful, because if this thing gets the flame off on the Panzer IV and the Panzer IV does not escape, well, it might actually just decrew the Panzer IV in its own right. So, yeah, as you can see, lots of damage coming in, and especially crits, not really as much damage itself. Some like more powerful flamethrowers like the Churchill Crocodile can even destroy vehicles on their own, because it's going to get the engine burning critical to a higher level, and it's going to basically blow up the engine and make the vehicle impossible to use. Anyway, yeah, it looks like we have Delta Catalan with a relatively balanced force of infantry and the Panzer IV, but not really a lot of support weapons. He's only got a 75mm, and the Americans are starting to get their anti-aircraft into gear, and massive airborne deployments. We have 101st AT teams. We have Pathfinders that have, of course, the beacons that you can call down, and they're pretty useful at recon. We have a recon squad, the intelligence section, who, once you activate these binoculars and the evasive action, will basically become map hacks. And looks like this Panzer IV is having a bad idea to charge in across the river, and they will be punished absolutely by the 101st Airborne AT team. Anti-tank squads in Wikinger are extremely dangerous, very dangerous. They can almost one-shot any sort of light or medium vehicle. Looks like another Wasp carrier from Tukcheske will try to move in, but it will get itself spotted by the munitions point, so that's not good. That's not the best. And Ragnar is going for a Schwer Panther headquarters finally. Looks like he was waiting on some kind of call-in, but he wasn't really able to get that out. And Vaxi is going for more Stugs. This Stug call-in is very useful with that 550 manpower price tag. It's not that expensive for what you're getting, to be completely honest. And maybe later he's going to want to wait and get a Panther, or that's actually a Befehlswagen, so it's a command Panther. May want to get some kind of Panther or a Tiger. As you can see, the costs of these vehicles are pretty prohibitive, so you're going to need to treat them with care. Right now there's an M4A3 76er from Def Kitty, of course, one of the specialties of the American armor, that are doing some good things. But yeah, it looks like Def Kitty is waiting on a lot of command points, which might mean that he's going with the Abrams call-in. And you'll see what that does. It does not actually call in an M1 Abrams, it's a massive amount of Shermans. And it looks like the Jaegers will almost be wiped out, but they will luckily escape, luckily for the Germans, that is. And we have a massive airstrike coming in from one of the Germans, destroying the Sherman and a lot of infantry support and defenses over there. I wonder which of the Germans was that. I think it was the Arado jet bomber. Yes, it was the Arado jet bomber, which is very expensive, as you can see, and it takes a bit to get in, but it takes less than other airstrikes because haha, it's a jet bomber, and it's basically impossible to shoot down, so you're gonna need to just eat it and go, you know. You have Officer Squad over here from České, and he has also got the company command post set up, and he's going with Churchills. Looks like he has upgraded that with Vickers K and the high explosive rounds, of course, allowing him to massacre infantry a little bit better than usual. Although the Churchill, I mean, it's very hard to kill. It's not really meant to kill enemies as much as it is to soak up damage, but the Stug gets a nice shot in with a penetration. It's relatively rare, actually, for a Stug to just penetrate a Churchill right off the bat, so it's gonna make this Churchill run away, and the Stug tries to chase, which might have been a bad idea, as there's a actually no, this is an easy 8 Sherman, which manages to help out the anti-tank gun, actually a stolen Pak 40, as you can see. That's very good if you can steal it, and they're gonna take out both of those Stugs. Well done, the Allies getting a good win over there. And right now, yeah, it looks like the German infantry will try to get a bit of revenge on this Sherman, and that's not really gonna work. There is the armored infantry support. There goes the Jaegers right into the lake. Need to be careful about those heavy and expensive infantry squads. As you can see, these Jaegers with 0 kills, actually, already almost up to veteran C5. That is most likely because of their usage of Panzerfausts. Most likely because of that. Anyway, I don't think there's any way to buy veterancy in Wikinger, so I'm not sure if that might have been possible, but yeah. Looks like we have a bit of a push from these Americans on the right side. That's good to see, because to be completely honest, the Germans are very weak on the right side, so if the Americans were a little bit more proactive with that, it would be pretty good. And as you can see, the Jagdpanzer just showing its worth. Here comes the mechanized riflemen, or the armored infantry, as you could say. This is pretty dangerous at anti-infantry, but not not that good at anti-vehicle. So if the Germans can send in something like, yeah, they're gonna send in the Jagdpanzer, which is not that good at dealing with infantry. In fact, it's pretty bad. But yeah, if they can deal with this right side with a vehicle, that would be best. Of course, we also have a Sherman with the bulldozer medium tank, but the deadliness of the anti-tank guns is shown, and the ambushing 75mm destroys quite easily, in fact, that thing. And looks like we have over here a Stug trying to fight with that Churchill, but not having a good time. What might have a good time at fighting with that Churchill is the Tiger. So Tiger is pretty dangerous, and it looks like we have the Desert Rats Crocodile available to the engineers. That is a very, very strong unit. You do not want to fight this thing at any sort of, I guess, medium to long range is already too close, because its flamethrower has a massive range, and it's got a very, very nasty killing power. It can even disable King Tigers, so you need to be careful with this thing. And it looks like Tukcheske does have enough manpower to call this thing off, and he's going also for a Firefly, it seems. Yes, the Sherman Firefly, and he's got a lot of munitions, so he's going to be able to use a lot of these abilities. Tulip rocket strikes, armor piercing, discarding sable rounds, already upgrading with the tank commander and the Tulip rockets, and the Firefly also has high explosive rounds, which aren't quite as effective as Sherman high explosive rounds, but they're relatively strong. So you need to be careful even with your infantry. And as you can see, Def Kitty nicely using his half-track from the mechanized infantry call-in. This thing has a massively dangerous 50 caliber machine gun on top, which can deal with light vehicles and infantry quite easily, and of course can reinforce squads on the front line. So he's using that very, very well. He's bringing out lots of Shermans, and the pop cap in Wikinger is higher. So you're gonna want to be very, very scared in the late game if the Americans can snowball out of, out of control with all of their infantry that they have. As you can see, we have a pretty massive airborne build-up from Ordo. He's helping out his ally by moving up with these anti-tank squads. Looks like the Stug is taking a lot of damage from Ragnar the Gamer, and he's trying to run away extremely quickly. And looks like, yeah, he actually did use the Iron Cross ability to get these Jaegers up to Veteran C4. So I was wrong. But, yeah, he's going to try to support the Tiger with the Jaegers, which is actually a very, very good way to do that. These guys have drugs that they can use to be stronger. So, yeah, you just need to be careful with these guys. What I would like to see from these German players is one or two scout squads or a sniper, so that they can have, in fact, a sniper is very, very strong, or a sniper so that they can spot enemy units from long range. And it looks like the Jaegers take a massive pounding to the face from that 3-incher gun of the Churchill. The Churchill has taken fire from the Tiger. Looks like it managed to destroy the Veteran C5 Jaegers, and in the meantime, the Tiger's taken fire from the Firefly from the flank, and we have a flank coming in from these Shermans, getting some good side shots and rear shots on that Jagdpanzer. It's dead, and right now it seems like the Germans are basically losing everything that they have. This is an annihilation game, as you can see, so the allies will have to push all the way up into the base if they wish to win this out. Right now it seems like, yes, they will even be able to destroy the Tiger. Well done. So that's basically the entire German armored force gone. If they're to push right now all the way up to the base, they can probably destroy most of the base with their tanks. So what they need to do at this point is seize the initiative and try to attack with what they have, which is a lot, to be fair. There's a lot of Jacksons, Churchills, Shermans, and Fireflies, which, to be fair, are Shermans, that they can use to attack. But the Germans, unfortunately for them, will spam out some of these Panzerjäger troops to defend their base. And this is one of the things I really dislike, actually, about Wikinger, is that you can spam out anti-tank guns and these anti-tank squads, which are very effective to kind of defend your base. And however, it looks like, yeah, we're going to have an Arado R-24 234 bomber, which is going to absolutely obliterate the entirety of the American armored infantry. That was an amazing, amazing coup from Ragnar the Gamer, getting that great bombing run, saving his base from being overrun by infantry. Because to be completely honest, these flak emplacements are strong against enemy infantry, but all those squads could have been able to overrun these front flak emplacements, and then with support of his allies, the Shermans and all of that, he could have pushed in and used the infantry to screen away these Panzerjäger troops. And unfortunately, because of that, now the Germans are able to bring out the KT. So of course that is the Panzer Division's, I guess, ace up the sleeve. It's the KT, the Kurt Knispel dispatch, and this thing is very expensive, as you can see, 2,100 manpower, but it's nothing to laugh at. And it looks like we do have the sniper ace coming through for Ragnar the Gamer. Ragnar, I've played against him quite a few times. He's a dick with the sniper. He's very good at microing it. So yeah, the allies will need to be careful. And look at the amazing superiority of firepower and all of that the allies have going for them right now. We have an obscene amount of infantry and support weapons from the American airborne player. He can also go with a lot of Shermans, actually. The Shermans are the only real tank that the airborne gets. But if you upgrade this battalion command post, you can get quite a few of them. And they're not that bad. Looks like an APRE was smashed by the Kurt Knispel. So now the allies know that this thing is around. And honestly, looks like the airborne player will only focus his vehicle production on AA, which is not that bad of an idea. And oh, looks like we have a Calliope, which can fire a lot of rockets in Wikinger. Looks like he's also used the bigger barrage, the full salvo, as opposed to the half salvo, which is comparatively less expensive for the amount of rockets that you get. And as you can see, this is a massive amount of damage. It got 8 kills, so it might have wiped even something. Destroyed already 2 buildings. That was probably the flak emplacements, and it's done a lot of damage to the existing base buildings as well. But there's a Jagdtiger on the field for Vaxi, and that's going to help support the Königstiger against the very, very real threat of these allied tank destroyers, especially the Fireflies. The Jackson is not that strong, but you do have those HVAP rounds, which can do quite a bit of damage against even the King Tiger. And of course, the airborne player, once they can deal with those flak emplacements and the, of course, Schwerpanzer headquarters in the base, the airborne player will have massive airstrikes. Looks like he hasn't gone down the line for the airstrikes in this entire game, but now that we are approaching the late game, he's gonna have some nasty things that he can do. Much more nasty, in fact, than the Arado bomber that we have seen from Ragnar the Gamer. So we're going to need to be, keeping our eyes open for that. And right now, it seems like the Germans, we'll see the Panzerfaust, as you can see, one-shotting the Churchill AVRE from those Jaegers. So you need to be careful. It's a 100 millimeter, sorry, not a 100 millimeter. It's a, just the Panzerfaust 150, which is, I believe, 88 millimeter. And it's very, very, very evil. You need to be careful with this thing. You can't afford to get yourself hit by that thing, which has a very nasty range, actually. So you need to be careful in that way as well. Jagdtiger around, and finally it looks like the Germans will load up on the map hacks with, of course, the infrared half-truck, which is just as strong as it is in the standard game. And, of course, the sniper. Sniper already up to 11 kills, as you can see. Very, very dangerous. If we can, we're going to look at the Fog of War, and if the sniper decides to activate his binoculars, which, oh no, actually he does have the scope. Where is he looking though? So he's looking all the way over here, and as you can see, this this little ray of line of sight, that is the sniper, which all the way from over here is just providing line of sight all the way up to these trees. So you can imagine how strong it is. In fact, if I were to estimate from what I know, the sniper right now, if it were to turn around and look at this sort of region where there's no line of sight blockers, he can probably look all the way up to this building at least. And as you can see, his firing range is about as big as that. So very, very, very strong. And looks like we have some kind of, a bombing run. But unfortunately for the Allies, it kind of missed the Jagdtiger, so that's pretty bad. AP discarding Sabo is going to be loaded by the Firefly. The Firefly is not firing those tulips though, and the Jagdtiger is just bouncing off rounds and not really caring about what the Americans have to offer over here for AT. So of course we're going to need to be careful about the Jagdtiger if you're the Allied players. Right now the KT is also something that they need to be very, very afraid of. But if they can load up on very strong anti-armor units such as these Fireflies and Jacksons and all of that, then that can be pretty good. Right now, he's also got the 2nd Tank Destroyer Platoon, which is a Wolverine, a Jackson, and an M20. that can be a useful call-in if he's lacking for fuel, but he's not lacking for fuel. In the late game, that's how Wikinger really tends to work out. Manpower becomes pretty plentiful, whereas other resources, well, no, not manpower, other resources become plentiful and manpower becomes scarce. So you need to be very, very much afraid of that. And as you can see, the Task Force Abrams is actually even more expensive than the KT, but it's I hope that he'll call it in because it's a really majestic sight. I'm not sure it would be a good idea right now to call that in. I guess you yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, it might be a good idea because the Germans have some very, very strong guns on their side. I mean, they have the Jagdtiger, they have a Panzerfaust H and the Stug and the KT from Delta. But they don't really have a lot of guns to fire from. Like, yeah, sure, the Jagdtiger can basically one-shot a Sherman, and so can the KT. But one-shotting one Sherman is good. However, you'll see. Anyway, for some reason, Mr. Cheske over here is not really going with these Desert Rats Comets or Desert Rat Crocodiles. To be completely honest, a Crocodile would be an amazing tool to deal with these enemy heavy tanks because it stuns them up with the flamethrower and it can decrew them relatively easily. It can disable the KT, so I'm guessing it's gonna be able to disable the AVR, not the AVRE, the Jagdtiger as well. Looks like the AVRE is going to try to get a petard mortar off on this Panzer IV, which cannot penetrate this thing from the front at all. But there is the danger of this Stug, so the AVRE needs to be a little bit careful not to get it flanked, in fact, by the Stug. Looks like it's going to get some help in the form of these two Easy 8s. Easy 8s, of course, already up to some veterancy, some kills. You need to be careful with these things because the veterancy on them is valuable. It is valuable. These things tend to miss, so getting the veterancy is quite useful. Looks like the AVRE will get blown up by something. Looks like the KT. The KT, which took a massive amount of damage from probably the petard mortar. And yeah, well done taking out the Stug. Looks like the crew itself of that Easy 8 will save itself. So if you can get another Easy 8, actually though, if he can get another Easy 8, he's going to need to get it vetted up itself because vehicles that aren't veteran cannot bail out their vehicle crews. That's, I think, at least how it works with tanks to prevent massive abuses. And, oh, let's see the sniper's line of sight. As you can see, it is quite massive, about as big as the firing range. And it gets even better, I believe, with veterancy. Gets better accuracy, run faster, better accuracy. Oh, no, okay, never mind. So it improves his accuracy. This thing can actually miss, unlike in, you know, the regular game. But even though it can miss, it's still, I would say, a little bit overpowered. Because look at this thing. It's just impossible to deal with. Like, what can these allied players do right now except get their own sniper? I would say pretty much nothing. And even when this guy fires, I don't think he even gets spotted for all that long. As you can see, oh no, he doesn't even get spotted. It's just like, oh, the sniper's firing from there. So the only counter to this guy is light artillery, like the pack howitzer, of course. So you're going to need to be careful with the pack howitzer. Once you see unit sniped and you're coming from that, you just snipe, well, try to snipe the sniper with an artillery barrage, and otherwise things are not going to be looking good for you. So Ragnar right now is a little bit starved for units, but he's got his own King Tiger, and that's dangerous as hell for the allies. The first King Tiger survived that ordeal with the AVRE, and so it's back at base. It's actually hidden at base with the camouflage on. Vehicles can camouflage, and that's gonna put some bushes all the way around the tank, and that's a very, very cool animation. Not that useful if your vehicle doesn't have the best gun, because of course it's meant for like the ambush. But hey, yeah, so the King Tigers can use it pretty effectively, but it's, to be honest, relatively easy to spot the King Tigers even if they go on camouflage mode. What is this command mode actually? Lose firepower because the tank commander will replace the top gunner and it will gain line of sight. Okay, so he's using that to scout. Doesn't really need to do that, to be completely honest. And oh, massive airstrike, almost killing the KT again. very lucky, these German players. Looks like the Americans will push into Pershing to try to finish off the KT, and that will do with the HVAP rounds, which do less damage, but they almost always penetrate against something like the King Tiger. Looks like the Jagdtiger, which has even stronger frontal armor than the King Tiger, will get defended actually by the Jagdpanzer from that Sherman Firefly. The Sherman Firefly, I'm not sure what it was trying to do, but the Sherman Firefly does destroy the Jagdtiger, sorry, not the Jagdtiger, the Jagdpanzer, and looks like something destroyed or knocked out the Sherman Firefly, and this is pretty bad, because there's a heavy vehicle crew right over here that can just get this Firefly, but a mortar round or a pack howitzer round does actually decimate the vehicle crew. Massive Calliope barrages are going to come through on the German base, destroying the infrared half-track, doing massive amounts of damage to both the infantry that was waiting in there to get some replenishments and the buildings. Not really, of course, doing the most damage to the tanks, but it does some damage to the tanks if it gets direct hits. So you need to be careful with these Calliope barrages. And yeah, it looks like we have the massive amounts of kills, already up to 50. Probably most of that is just like random medics and repair station crew that are all around the bases, but still, it's pretty impressive to get all that many kills. That is because the Allies have been able to force the Germans back into their own base, and over again just push them back into their base is of course quite the advantage for them. Right now it seems like these Churchills are trying to push up to get the kill on the Firefly, I would say, more than really pushing up per se, and they do manage to kill the Stuke from backseat. The vehicle crew tries to get into the Firefly, they just barely get it out, but yeah, the operation will be completed by the Churchills, and right now it is the best possible time. But here comes the Arado. Yup, absolutely smashing one of the Churchills. In fact, it was the veteran one. And the Churchill Aviary will get destroyed by the Panzerfaust from the Jaeger Battalion 502. And yeah, you can see just the amount of damage that can be dealt by these airstrikes. At this point, ooh, airdrop propaganda war. Looks like Ragnar has actually finished off his tree entirely. He's also got the V1, which can be very strong, but yeah, the Arado is also strong as hell, so you're going to need to be balancing out how many V1s you use with how many Arado bombers you use, and how many also... Ooh, looks like we have a big airstrike coming in from the Americans. We have a P-47 scouting in, and the big heavy bombers going to be called right near the base, I would say. Wait, no? That was not a big heavy bomber? That was a airdrop of some kind then, because that's usually the big heavy bombers. Oh no, he did do a tactical bombing with the Marauders. So why did it not do anything? I do not know. Seems like it's bugged in some way. Or maybe it did drop and I just didn't see it. It dropped somewhere else where I wasn't looking. Anyway, as you can see, he is going with... just because it's not like he can do much else. So that bugged UI, though. That's unfortunate. That's because there's normally, with Wikinger people are awesome. There's normally a way to change the aspect ratio of your UI so that it does not really get in the way. But unfortunately, this is the replays, so yeah. Anyway, looks like the American airborne player, he's got enough. I mean, he's defending his area. He's got the infantry hidden all over the map. As you can see, they are all basically hidden. This icon tells us that. And they're providing not only line of sight, but also anti-tank defenses and anti-infantry defenses, preventing German units from sneaking in any kind of way. You get hidden by going into cover. It's a bit like the Partisans, but for the airborne, basically every unit can do that, I would say. I think every unit can hide for the airborne, so they're very strong that way. And this is providing that sort of screen, as you can see on the mini-map. If we can look at this, although, well, made it lag right in the middle of a fight. Anyway, yeah, as you can see, the General McAuliffe is so strong. He was able to deal with the SS Jaegers, of course with the support of the Sherman Firefly's machine guns, but still, he was able to beat down the SS Jaegers, which are one of the most powerful infantry units in the game, which is, well, pretty good. And looks like this Command Panther has the infrared searchlight, so that's pretty nasty. Doesn't show in the model, because of course you cannot change models in Company of Heroes, but yeah, it does have the infrared searchlight, so it does have the searchlight That's just like the nasty map hacks. So pretty useful. Anyway, what was I saying? I was talking about, like, as you can see, the Americans have a bit of a concave setup. Helped out, of course, this is Rzhev Winter, so the river is also helping them out and forming a defensive line. But most of this is the airborne guy, whereas the mobile striking force for the Americans right now is the armor player with the Pershings. Looks like, however, his Calliope might die. That's not good. Let's see, the Panther tries to get the last shot in, but I'm thinking that, no, line of sight will not be permitting that. The Jagdtiger is also trying to push in. Perhaps not the best idea with these Jacksons and anti-tank infantry squads all around. But really, I think that the Americans should be a little bit more aggressive than what they are doing right now. Like, the Germans are really down to the ropes. They're basically gone. Like, they don't have a lot of units left. And if they were just a little bit more aggressive, I think that the Allies could push right into the base and win the game before the Germans can bring out more, like, nasty heavy tanks and support them with lots of infantry or something like that. You know, just don't give them time to recover. And, yeah, try to do that. Anyway, of course, one of the ways that the airborne can use different... It looks like they... I think it was the airdrop. Really now? Well, that's dickish. I will never know who won then. Fatal Scar error. That's nasty. Well, I'm not going to throw the rest of the cast away just because of that, but it might be because somebody dropped or something? I don't know. I have no idea what happened. Anyway, yeah, I'm not going to throw the rest of the cast away. I'll still upload it. Sorry, I guess, for the error. I just didn't think that this would happen, but yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool, I think. Do tell me if you want to see more Wikinger casts, and the next time I'll be, I guess, more selective with the replays. I'll check them out first, or I'll let them run to see if they encounter any errors, so I'm sorry for that. But yeah, my prediction is that the Allies would have won, but, I mean, the Germans have chances of getting back. As you can see from the time, we still have about half an hour left. Ish. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that can happen with that. I'm not sure if the Allies would have had any ways of dealing with the Jagdtiger unless Vaxi makes some major mistake with it. And overall, if the Germans were able to rebuild their infantry and not have it die to airstrikes, which is a big ordeal, but they perhaps could have scraped together enough firepower to deal with all of these American units, and the vehicle game wouldn't have been really all that difficult for them to win because of, again, the King Tiger, the Jagdtiger. They're just superior, so it's basically the ball is in the Allies' court at this point to win. Their real advantage over the Germans were the fact that the Germans are basically just huddled up into one area, their base. So that makes it a lot easier for them to, like, aim their airstrikes and artillery. So they could have dealt a lot of damage with that and prevented the Germans from building up big infantry forces or something like that, which you saw, to be fair, earlier. And the Germans, on the other hand, would have had a bit of a more difficult time just wiping out lots of Allied units in one go because they have more territory, they can space them out better, and all of that. But that's just kind of my opinion. Probably the Allies would win. I don't know. Anyway, thank y'all for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'm sorry for, of course, the error, but I'll see you soon, I hope.